The surviving ex-Templars would remain underground, the lodge system not yet in its official, post-1717, period. The symbols of the anti-Rome movement among the Cathari, and the symbol of the French Protestants in the north of France were rough and shed. The dove, the symbol of personal enlightenment, the eight-pointed cross, and the hatchet would grace the apparel and equipment of Huguenots and Freemasons. The wars also divided the ex-Templars and Masons along political lines, placing members of the descendant orders on both sides. The English King Edward III managed to pit his country against Catholic France in what would become known as the 100 Years' War. Some of the original founding Templar families acted for the Catholic side. The Scottish-French alliance created by the family connections behind the Templars set the ex-Templars and their heirs alongside the French in fighting England. But not all ex-Templars were seagoing warriors. On land, the Scots Guard became the inheritors of the Templar tradition. In 1445, 100 years after the Templars were abolished, and the French Templars fled to Scotland, the Neo-Templar Scots Guard, or the Compagnie des Gendarmes Écossaise, returned to France to intervene in French military adventures. The Old Alliance renewed by the Robert the Bruce Sinclair Power Base brought Scotland to war on the continent. The Templar descendants often took the names of the men to whom they pledged themselves in feudal Scotland, but generations fought to piracy. A merry and a short life later, they often kept their language and their patriotic leanings to their homeland. In France they were organized under French names. They were paid in livres town voice, and their officers and commanders were often invited into an knighthood, the Order of Saint Michael. When the French Dauphin was ready to flee Catholic France and allow the victory of newly Protestant England, it was Joan of Arc who intervened. A vanguard of Scottish soldiers helped Joan's armies reverse the tide in one spectacular victory after another. The Scots Guard, a Neo-Templar organization, would become the King's Guard and the King's Bodyguard, and play important roles in both military and state affairs for almost another 200 years. The 100 Years' War was a particularly difficult time in Europe, and England may have never seen a century of such lawlessness. On land, petty thefts were innumerable. On the seas, piracy reigned. Bribery secured judges and juries alike, and the ever-present tax collectors' palms could be greased. Greed was the most significant force, and even poets like Chaucer, who once denounced greed, now practiced it. The effect of the avarice was widespread poverty and economic disruption. In England, the 14th century ended with massive rebellion that would go down in history as Wat Tyler's Revolt. Wat Tyler was actually Walter the Tiler, a Masonic name derived from the French word tailor, meaning one who cuts. Each lodge of Freemasons had an appointed Tiler, and unlike the tailor who cuts clothes, the Tiler was designated to guard the door with a sword. While it is often claimed that mob violence is spontaneous, Winston Churchill in his Birth of Britain, and author Barbara Tuchman agree that beneath the mob violence was organization. By whom? The answer is obvious according to some, as no single group suffered losses comparable to those inflicted over the next few days on the Knights Hospitallers, who seemed to be on an especially aggressive hit list of the rebel leaders. 93 generations after the Templars had been officially dissolved, they were still taking revenge on their rival order. The Crusades were over, yet the Templars remained a force both in the public eye and underground. History records the achievements of brothers to pirates and corsairs, 43 the military units such as the Scots Guard, but history leaves uncovered the role of the ex-Templars in various forms, from merchants and craftsmen to pirates. And the Templars were not the only order to engage in piracy, although they were the only order to use the skull and crossbones as their battle flag. Rival orders as pirates, the main rivals of the former Templars, the Knights of Malta and the Teutonic Knights, also turned to piracy to finance their orders. In the period just after the Battle of Bannockburn, when Scottish and English pirates ravaged the world trade, the Hanseatic League turned to the Teutonic Knights to protect its shipping. The envoys of Henry V of England, who were sent to meet with the Order's Grand Master to discuss a truce, were actually captured by Hanseatic pirates. England then turned to the Knights of Rhodes, later the Knights of Malta, as they were known to provide assistance with negotiations. Oddly, two orders that had faced a common enemy during the Crusades were now enemies with each other. The Knights of Rhodes had been organized by merchants from Amalfi. The order was created before the Knights Templar with the goal of providing medical assistance to the crusading knights and the pilgrims in the Holy Lands. The Knights of Rhodes first dedicated its order to St. John, and was called the Order of the Hospital of St. John, or the Hospitallers. After the fall of Jerusalem, they went to Cyprus. In 1306 the master of the order, Falkstivarat, who had been the knight's first admiral, joined forces with a Genoese adventurer. With their combined fleet they captured the island of Rhodes. The tiny island, that had served as an nest for Greek, Italian, and Saracen pirates, became the order's privateer base. But the order had little to do now that Jerusalem was lost. It protected Christian shipping, and attacked Muslim shipping. 10 The Knights of Rhodes developed a distinctive style of warfare at sea, using grappling hooks and powerful soldiers to lock together ships fought for piracy. A merry and a short life, and immediately bored them, pirate style. Little better than pirates, they launched an attack on Cairo. The first stop was in Alexandria, where 20,000 men, women, and children were killed before the conquest erupted into an orgy of pillage and rape. 11 Many of the military contingents refused to go any farther, because they enjoyed the spoils of war, and some brethren turned pirate. 12 From Rhodes the Hospitallers continued to harass Muslim shippers until 3 successive sieges by the Turks dislodged the knights. They then moved from port to port, operating as pirates, even to the point of allowing the brethren to share in the booty. In the 16th century the Hospitallers resumed their naval operations from Malta. They harassed Islamic shippers. They were at war, so in their eyes the piracy was just privateering. The Knights of Malta was very close to the various nation-states of Italy, and was often allied with other states to carry out trades. Members became known as Corso, a word that later was anglicized to corsair, or pirate. Their sea caravans enriched the order through spoglio, prize money, obtained in the sale of the goods they captured, including slaves, and through ransoming captives.